All right, let's get right into it. You'd think that having a powerful mind would make life easier, right? But the psychology tells a very different story. For a lot of people, a super active brain just means feeling exhausted, kind of disconnected, or just mentally swamped, even when everything on the outside looks totally fine. So today, we're diving deep into that complex inner world. And we're going to try and reframe those struggles not as flaws, but as what they really are, the side effects of having a deep thinking mind. Does this hit home for you? This feeling that your own mind is this incredible, powerful tool, but also this massive weight? If it does, you're absolutely in the right place. And it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because your brain is just wired to process reality on a completely different level.
So first up, let's talk about what's actually going on inside your head. We're going to explore that private, internal experience that, can feel pretty isolating at times.
Now, this is a really crucial distinction to make. That constant mental chatter, that nonstop inner monologue you've got going, that is not automatically a disorder. It's actually the natural state of a brain that is built for deep, continuous processing. Think of it this way, it's a feature, not a bug.
I bet some of this sounds pretty familiar, right? Your mind is constantly replaying conversations, hours, even days after they happened. You feel stress in a way that's just deeper because you're connecting dots and seeing long-term consequences that other people seem to just brush off. And you've got this crystal clear picture in your head of the perfect way things should be, so anything less feels like a huge failure. Oh, and that feeling of intense boredom with simple, repetitive tasks? That's just your brain yelling at you, demanding something more complex to chew on.
Okay, so that's what's happening on the inside. But how does all of that get perceived from the outside? Well, this is where things get tricky and where a lot of misunderstandings start to pop up.
Yep, here's one of the most common and honestly one of the most frustrating labels you can get. The world looks at a deep processor and often just sees lazy.
But let's really break this down, because this slide perfectly shows the gap between perception and reality. It's not about avoiding all effort. It's about resisting pointless effort. Your brain is constantly doing this mental math. Is the energy I'm about to spend worth the outcome? If a task feels meaningless or disconnected from a bigger purpose, your motivation just evaporates. So it's not a lack of discipline, it's a deep need for meaning. Your internal reward system is dialed into the final outcome, not the boring, tedious steps to get there.
And here we go, the next one. If you're not being called lazy, you might get slapped with the difficult label, or maybe even insubordinate.
See, this comes from a natural tendency to think for yourself. You don't just reject authority for the fun of it, you question the logic behind the rules. When someone gives you advice, your brain doesn't just soak it up for comfort, it stress tests it, looking for actual evidence. And being called argumentative? So often, that's just a sign that your mind is juggling way more layers and possibilities than a simple surface-level conversation can even handle. All right, now let's zoom in on one very specific area where this all plays out. Your choice to be quiet, to be private, especially in our super loud, share everything world. There's some real power in that silence.
This is such a key concept to get your head around. It's not about hiding. It's about consciously and deliberately choosing what you share and who you share it with. And it comes from a place of self-respect, not from a place of fear or insecurity. So let's just bust these myths right now. The myth is if you're quiet, especially online, you must be insecure. The psychological truth? You're actually self-contained. You're comfortable with who you are, even when nobody's watching. The myth is that you need all those likes and comments. The truth? Your motivation comes from the inside. You're driven by making progress, not by getting applause. And the biggest myth of all? That you must be lonely. No. You value your privacy because it creates peace. It's how you protect your mental energy from all the noise. Okay, so we've looked at the inner world, and we've looked at how the outer world judges it. Now, let's pivot from just understanding to actually doing something. How do you work with this powerful mind of yours, instead of feeling like you're always fighting against it? The foundation for all of this is a concept called metacognition. It sounds kind of fancy, but it's actually pretty simple. It's the game-changing ability to step outside of your own head and just observe your thought process. It's not about stopping your thoughts, it's about becoming aware of them from a distance. It's literally thinking about your thinking. So how do we actually practice this? Well, here are 3 simple, practical things you can do. First, just pause before you react. Create that little bit of space between the impulse and the action. That's where your thinking brain kicks in. Second, actively question your own thoughts. Just ask yourself, hey, what if I'm wrong about this? It's a great way to stay flexible. And third, test your own understanding. Try to explain a really complex idea in simple terms. If you can make it simple for someone else, you've just proven to yourself that you have total clarity.
All right, as we start to wrap this up, let's really focus on the single most important message here. True self-awareness is the thing that transforms this entire experience, from a daily struggle into a real strength.
Let's just let that sink in for a moment. All those things that feel like a burden, the constant analysis, the deep stress, the perfectionism, they aren't signs that you're broken. They are simply the price you pay for having a mind that sees and processes the world with such incredible depth.
So the whole point here is this. The goal is not to stop overthinking. I mean, good luck with that, right? That's never going to happen. The goal is to understand how your mind works so you can aim that powerful ability with purpose, with intention, and, this is the most important part, with a little bit of self-compassion.
And that brings us to the final question, which is really more of a challenge for you. Understanding all this stuff is the first step. The next step is putting it into practice. So knowing what you know now, how are you going to choose to live with and harness the incredible strength that is your deeply processing mind?
Exploring the threads of human behavior is a journey without limits. Join us as we weave together